Good morning. We want to thank everybody for coming this morning. My name is Victoria Niave. I'm honored to serve as state representative for House District 107, which covers parts of East Dallas, Garland, and Mesquite. I'm joined today by former Senator Wendy Davis to my left and a survivor advocate, Lavinia Masters, who's going to talk to you as well. And so I want to just start off by saying that, every day there is a woman, a man, a child in communities all across our state who are victimized by predators and sexual assault and rape. And many of these assaults and rapes go unreported. And so when we have a survivor who is willing to come forward to speak with law enforcement and to also undergo what is a very personal and invasive 4 to 6 hour sexual assault exam to collect evidence, and to just have that evidence sitting untested, sometimes for years, is absolutely unacceptable. There are cases that we've heard out of Austin where some kids were sitting untested for so long that they were growing mold on them. That's not what type of message are we sending to women across Texas? So we're here today to tell Texas women that we have your back. As a legislator this past legislative session, there has been a lot of work done by former Senator Wendy Davis on this issue. And we wanted to make sure, in the Texas House, there are 29 women out of 150 state legislators, and I'm very honored to be one of those 29. So I wanted to make sure that the very first bill that I filed was meaningful for women across Texas. And one of the main reasons that we would hear from the agencies and law enforcement and the labs on why the kits were not being tested is cost. That was the reason that was most often cited. Each kit costs between $300 to $2,000 to test, depending on how much evidence is in each rape kit. And so what we wanted to do was come up with a revenue source in order to pay for the testing of each of these rape kits. So I filed House Bills 1729 and House Bill 4102. What these bills do is that they allow our fellow Texans, whenever you go apply for or renew your driver's license, your motor vehicle registration, your personal ID, or your commercial ID, they allow you to check a box and contribute $1 or any amount that you would like, and the funds raised from that will go towards the testing of evidence in sexual assault cases. Every individual contribution. And we're so thankful to all of our fellow Texans who have contributed to this initiative. And I will say that we shouldn't have to be coming to our fellow Texans in order to contribute and fund the backlog of thousands of untested rape kits in our state. Our state should be fully funding this issue. The fact of the matter is that it's not fully funding this issue. So we're optimistic about the numbers and the dollars that are being raised to address this issue. But as we were launching this issue, we kept hearing from our community, is there another way that I can contribute? Because I may not renew my driver's license until another 3 or 4 years from now. And so we partnered with Senator Wendy Davis and her organization, Deeds Not Words, and she's going to share with you in just a moment an online initiative that we're launching to raise additional dollars that will go into this dedicated evidence testing account that was created by our legislation. Since then, we have also created a sexual violence task force right here in the Dallas area, composed of more than 20 experts in this area, from law enforcement, the DA's office. We have hospital SANE units. We have nurses that are experts in this area. We have forensic labs that are part of it, and we have the voices of our survivor advocates as well at the table. And from this sexual violence task force that we've created, we're already hearing that this problem is a lot bigger than we thought. And so we are working on creating solutions and getting those ready so that we can file those the next legislative session. Now, I will say also that, and I want folks in our community to realize that each rape kit, it's not just a number sitting on a shelf. Each rape kit represents an individual. Each rape kit represents a survivor, somebody who is waiting for their day in court for a survivor who is waiting for justice. Each rape kit represents an opportunity also to get a predator off our streets. And so with that, I'm just very honored to be joined today by Senator Wendy Davis and Lavinia Masters, who are both champions of women on this issue. And so with that, we're going to, I'm going to turn the floor over to Senator Wendy Davis, and then Ms. Lavinia Masters will speak, and then I'll come back, and I'm happy to also answer any questions in Spanish as well.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Representative Neave, and all of you for being here as well. I am very proud to be teaming up with Representative Neave on the continued efforts to clear the backlog of rape kits in Texas. As a state senator in 2009, I passed a bill requiring an audit for all criminal jurisdictions in the state to report the number of untested kits that they had sitting on evidence room shelves. Not all jurisdictions have reported, even at this late date. But of those that did, we knew we were looking at a backlog of approximately 20,000 untested rape kits. In the subsequent years, we passed a bill setting aside $10 million to begin the testing of those kits. We passed a bill requiring that on a go-forward basis, when sexual evidence is tested, it is to be, when it's collected, it is to be tested within a 30-day period of time. And we passed legislation making sure that survivors of sexual assault are kept informed of the status of their rape kit as it goes through the process, with Representative Howard playing a significant role in passing legislation to do that last session. Representative Neave has stepped forward as a true leader on this issue, understanding when she came into her first legislative session that we had a problem that had still yet to be fully addressed. The backlog, while it has decreased, is still ever present, with many thousands yet to be tested. And that, of course, means that we are working to do everything we can to raise the resources to accomplish that goal. Representative Neave's bill in the last legislative session that she mentioned was a significant step toward addressing that, with the commendable actions of over 85,000 Texans who have contributed hard-earned dollars to, at this date, raise about $245,000 toward the testing of those kits. But we know there are a lot of other people who want to participate in making sure that we address this problem. And though we all agree that this is the state's responsibility, we as women feel that it is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're doing everything we can while waiting on the state to do what it ought to do to address the backlog in any way that we can. We collectively have teamed together to launch a new campaign. It's called Clear the Kits, and if you want to learn information about it, you can go to clearthekits.org. We are collecting money through a crowdfunding campaign. It's going into a specific dedicated account, and every single dollar raised will go particularly and specifically toward the testing of rape kits in Texas. There's a lot of work yet to be done. We know right now that while the testing of these kits has occurred, there are many that still have yet to be run through a system that allows us to identify a perpetrator, and still many more that we've yet to prosecute where a perpetrator may be identified. So a lot of work ahead. People who have suffered assault, who have endured the trauma of collection of sexual assault evidence, and whose kits have not been tested within that 10-year period of time, have unfortunately been denied justice that they deserve. And one of those people who's become an articulate, passionate advocate on this issue is joining us today, survivor advocate Lavinia Masters, and I'm happy to turn the floor over to her.
Thank you, Senator Wendy. Like she said, I am Lavinia Masters, and I am a survivor and an advocate for victims of sexual assault in the rape kit backlog. And thank you, Representative Neave, for your dedication and your hard work. I was violently raped at 13 years old in my home by a stranger. And my kid, unfortunately, sat on a shelf for over 21 years. And I was denied justice because, just as Senator Wendy Davis told you, nothing happened. It just sat there. I was forgotten about. That's how I felt. Like nobody cared about me. Nobody cared what happened to a child in the state of Texas. So you can imagine how I felt growing up, thinking that the police, the justice system, legislation, everything involved with caring about a child and how they would be served and how they would be protected in our state would come out of this would be. And so it was very disheartening to learn over 21 years later that my case was actually suspended, the verbiage that was used 3 days later after I was raped. So that was part of my driving force to become an advocate for victims, because I was like, never again would I allow this to happen to another victim in our state, where they would have to sit back and say what's happening to me, because we are not kids. We are not a number. We are people. We have lives. We have feelings. We want to grow. We want to flourish. We want to live. We want to go past that pain, that trauma. And that was very devastating. That was very traumatic for me. And it was a hard thing to endure and to get to this point in my life. And so I don't want anybody else to have to go through that, yet they still do. And so here we stand with Victoria Neave, with her hard work and dedication. And no, the state of Texas shouldn't have to do this, but I am honored and I am praising God that they have taken the initiative to say that your life mattered, and we will donate to you, and we will give to you, and we will do all we can, because we want to argue back and forth or not participate or not pass the laws or not enforce the laws or not do what we are supposed to do in legislation or as a state, and provide the funding as we are required or what have you. And so this is a great thing that you are doing as Texans, to provide for other victims and make sure they have their lives back. And it means a lot to me, because as Senator Davis says, you know, for us to not get the justice that we deserve, it's disheartening. It's disheartening. It doesn't matter what color you are, what gender you are. It's just disheartening to know that a human life does not get the justice that they deserve. To not be able to say that I can go and, my perpetrator was Kevin Glenn Turner, to not give him time behind bars for raping me because my statute of limitation had expired. I had 2 opportunities, because we had 10 years, and then we had another time we had, but all in all, it all expired with him being behind bars. And so now here I stand, not being justice for Kevin Glenn Turner being raped and raping me. And I'm sorry, I'm a little bit distraught this morning. What have you? I'm sorry. But I'm glad to be at this moment, at this present time, to be able to stand before you today and say we're getting a second chance at starting all over again. So the great state of Texas is doing a great thing with the people as we stand here and as we try to start over again. And Victoria Neave, with the work that she's doing with the crowdfunding, with These Not Words, and how we're saying that every lost child, every lost individual, we're coming for you, we're here for you, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that you get the justice that you deserve. And so until we have a broken system, or until we get it fixed, until we can make things happen and protect everyone we can, we're going to do all we can in this manner to make sure that it happens. And so I'm not going to keep you long, but like I said, I'm just excited today. I'm overwhelmed what's happening, and I'm just excited. And so, and I'm sorry. It was crazy getting here this morning, and I'm a little dismantled. But I had a lot to say, and it's by any means necessary that we're doing this. And I really want to thank the citizens of Texas, because like they said, I've got a lot of feedback myself on Twitter and things of that nature, and people reach out to me and they say, why are we having to pay for this? And I really want to say, we shouldn't, I don't want you to think that we're making you pay for this. This is your option to help us. And this is your option to open your hearts to others that are hurting, to open your hearts to those that are in pain, those that are suffering. These are your options. This is your option to show compassion for others, and we're not making you do anything. You have a heart. You make those decisions. to say that I want to help. I want to make your life matter. I want you to be able to function, and I want you to be able to go past your pain and your trauma. These are your options until our system is fixed. Because like she said, there's still many kids on the shelf. There are still many kids that are not accounted for. I do much work as advocate, and as an advocate, and there are still many cities that are still not reporting. Although there are laws that say you must report. I know there are cities because I go to meetings and I hear officers say, well, that's $100,000 that we don't have to report these kids, 80 to 90 kids that we don't want to report. So, it's those attitudes that we have to change. And until those attitudes are changed, we have to get these kids off the shelf. We have to get these people's lives back together. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I fully support this. Although I seem like I'm rambling right now, I fully support this, and I fully believe that people need to live, and they need to be whole again, and they need to be able to get their lives back together. And this is a great initiative, and this is a great thing to do. And for those who've already donated, I thank you, I applaud you, and I wish I could give each and every one of you a rose, and a big hug for everything that you've done, because it really matters. And it's like you're giving me my life back. You're giving me hope to know that you do support this, and people out there really care, because I felt like that lost child that nobody cared about. And to think that these women came out and they said, you know what, I'm going to go find you, and I'm going to help you, and I'm here for you, and I'm putting my hands out, and I'm reaching out for you, and I'm going to make sure that you know that you are loved, and that you matter to me, and your life matters to me. And that means the world to me, because I felt like nobody cared about me, for over 21 years. That's too long. That's too long. And some people are still out there feeling the same way, and so for them to do this, it means the world. And this is just Texas. This is a nationwide problem. You guys know that. But, we have to take care of home first. And so that matters to me. And I thank you both, Victoria Niave and Wendy Davis, for all that you do. Thank you so much.
What incredible voices we have on this issue. Thank you so much, Senator Davis and Lavinia, just for sharing your story that needs to be heard, if we're having that courage to do that. So we really thank you for that. We want women to know that you can still come forward, especially in this era of the Me Too movement. Know that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that the funds are there so that we get these kits tested. That's the message that we really want to spread to our community, is that please continue to come forward and report if you are raped or sexually assaulted. And again, we thank you, thank our partners for being here. And please, whether it's $1, any amount that you can contribute can make a meaningful impact and can help us bring justice to survivors of sexual assault. So thank you all for coming.
A quick question. Why is there such a backlog?
The reason that we are often told is that there's not enough money to get the kits tested. And so I think that's not an acceptable reason, and so that's why we wanted to come up with a solution. The solution is we need the funds. The state should be appropriating it. It's not appropriating enough, so how else can we come up with additional funds to get the kits tested?
And where are you getting that answer from, that there's not enough money?
We've heard it from different individuals, and
through the state.
Yes, the state hasn't appropriated enough funding to get the kits tested.
Obviously, some rape kits do get tested. Is it priority? Is that an issue?
We want to make sure that this is a priority for our state, and that it is at the forefront of many of the issues that the state is addressing, and that's why, and especially we as women in the Texas House, there aren't enough of us. We need more. So we know that we have a responsibility to make sure that issues that impact women are at the forefront and have to be our legislative priorities.
Do we know how many? Is there a specific number of how many kits have been are not tested?
20,000 you said earlier?
So I'll answer part, and then I'll let Senator Davis answer part of it. So in Dallas, Dallas Police Department alone has more than 2,020 kits that are untested. That's 2,000 women, men, children waiting. DPS, Department of Public Safety, has another 4,841. Then y'all heard about Austin. They had many that were untested so long that they were growing mold on them. And different, Senator Davis will talk about her legislation on what the accurate count is, but we don't know. The short answer is we don't know how big, how many are still untested, unless the agency specifically report. So.
To the earlier question too, yes, it is the case that the state has not dedicated the resources to test the backlog, but the development of the backlog occurred in many instances because law enforcement jurisdictions throughout the state and throughout the country made subjective decisions about whether to use their precious resources for the testing of these kits. In some instances, deciding not to believe victims. In other instances, deciding that because a perpetrator was known, it was not necessary to test a kit. However, it has shown that when a kit is tested, unidentified perpetrators of other rapes are able to be connected because of a known perpetrator in another sexual assault. So it's a multi-layered problem that has resulted in the fact that we have the tremendous backlog that we have. And that's why passing the law that said from a go-forward basis, no more than 30 days can go by, and every kit must be tested years ago. And that did not include all law enforcement jurisdictions, because not all law enforcement jurisdictions reported, and in fact, we got some pretty hard pushback from some of them who didn't want to release that information or engage in the work to determine what that number was. Where are we today? It's a really good question, because we have a number from DPS with regard to kits that have been turned over to them, but also law enforcement jurisdictions that have reported the status of their own testing. It is not a comprehensive number that includes all law enforcement jurisdictions that had determined a backlog. And we know that even though significant progress has been made in testing the kits, many thousands of those that have been tested have not yet been run through the evidence system, the CODIS system, that would help to identify an unknown perpetrator. There are so many layers of work that need to be done. And that's why I'm thrilled that my nonprofit, Deeds Not Words, is partnering with Representative Neave's office, and she is exhibiting tremendous leadership to take these multi-layered issues head on in the next legislative session, and to assure that we become a state that is a model for how things are done.
Last question for me. Could another issue in addition to cost be resources? Are there not enough investigators to test these rape kits, and in turn could it open up a slew of new cases to prosecute?
That has been a tremendous challenge. We have heard from forensic labs about the tremendous cost and time it takes to train someone to be able to appropriately and accurately test a kit. Because we all have to keep in mind that this is evidence to be used in a court of law to prosecute someone for a crime. And that means it must meet a series of compliance steps to assure that it is accurate. There is a shortage of lab capacity, of people, trained people, power to do it. And one of the issues Representative Neave is looking at as part of her approach is, what can we do as a state to make sure that we're training more people to fill those positions and do the work that's yet to be done? And I don't know if you want to add something.
No, absolutely, and that's as part of our sexual violence task force. It's one of the things that the Dallas Southwestern Institute of Forensic Science raised, is that it takes months and months just to get an employee trained and to make sure that they analyze the evidence properly to be used. And so we want to look at, is there a way where we can partner with the universities to make sure that there are programs available, or that we can encourage students to be a part of those programs so that we have enough skilled workers in that area to fill that void.
Can we get you one real quick in Spanish, the importance of this today?
Yes. Mi nombre es Victoria Niave, soy representante estatal por el Distrito 107 y estamos aquí porque en el estado de Texas hay mujeres que son víctimas del asalto sexual, y cuando una mujer muchas personas no reportan que son víctimas del asalto sexual. Solo que cuando tenemos una persona que reporta el crimen y luego va a un hospital para obtener la prueba necesaria en un examen de violación, un rape kit, para nomás tener esa prueba esperando que alguien haga el examen de esa prueba para usarlo en la corte, no es aceptable. So, lo que nosotros hicimos es pasamos legislación para que personas podrían contribuir $1 o cualquier cantidad que quieran, y ese dinero va a ayudar a hacer el examen de la prueba necesario en estos casos del asalto sexual. Estamos aquí con la senadora Wendy Davis y también una Lavinia Masters, que habló de ella como una niña fue asaltada del asalto sexual cuando era niña, y por más de 20 años ella esperó que su rape kit, que hagan el examen, y para ese tiempo ya pasó la fecha límite para que puedan arrestar a la persona que la violó. Solo que estamos aquí porque tenemos un programa nuevo que se llama clearthekids.org, donde uno puede contribuir. También pueden contribuir cuando van a obtener su licencia o su registración en su carro, pero en clearthekids.org si pueden contribuir $1 o cualquier cantidad, ese dinero ayudará a determinar la prueba en un examen de violación, un rape kit, para ayudar a mujeres en el estado.
Ya que estás en español, ¿cuál es la responsabilidad que tiene el Estado y por qué se decide ir a la comunidad a pedir dinero para esto?
Una razón es que el Estado no está poniendo suficiente dinero para este tema, solo que nosotros queríamos obtener dólares adicionales de nuestra comunidad. $1, cualquier cantidad, eso puede ayudar a traer justicia para una víctima del asalto sexual.
Claro, ¿nos puedes hablar un poquito de por qué o cuál es la cantidad de casos que tienen, lo que hablaban de los casos y las oficinas, y dar los números en español, por favor?
Sí. Hace más de 10 años, por el trabajo que hizo la senadora Wendy Davis, encontraron que habían más de 20,000 exámenes de violación que los exámenes todavía no lo han hecho. Pero ya desde ese tiempo, aquí en Dallas tenemos más de 2,000 exámenes de violación que todavía no se examinan, se analizan. Y también hay miles por todo el estado. No sabemos el número exacto, pero este es un tema muy grande que queremos que mujeres todavía reportan que son víctimas del asalto sexual.
¿Cuánto afecta a una víctima que no se pueda hacer un examen o que no haya justicia en su caso, más allá del trauma que existe ya por una violación?
Muchas personas ni reportan que el crimen pasó, solo que cuando tenemos una persona que sí reporta el crimen, nosotros como una comunidad del estado deberemos de ayudarles como podemos, y por eso hicimos esta legislación, y esta organización con Deeds Not Words trabajamos con ellos para poner el clearthekids.org para que personas puedan contribuir para ayudar en estos casos.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody for coming out.